everyone. We're so excited to see you virtually today on probably the best day Milwaukee, at least, has seen in months. So I'm going out and getting a smoothie right after this and sitting outside immediately after. I'm Elizabeth Szynski. I am the Director of Programs and Impact for Scale at Milwaukee. Short version is we help companies grow, and we're so excited to see a few of you here today to learn how. I'm very excited about today's presenter, Kate Carter from Kate Carter Coaching. Try to say that 16 times fast. Kate and I met a few weeks ago, and I instantly fell in love with her energy. She has 30 years, so she started when she was 3 years old, 30 years of experience teaching, mentoring, coaching, even being a spiritual advisor and a crisis worker. So we're very excited to learn today from Kate about how to live and lead our businesses more fearlessly. So Kate, it's off to you.
It's great. Thank you so much. So I'm so happy to be here. I am going to share a PowerPoint. PowerPoints are different for the bulk of this talk, but I will also be asking for hand raises and little nods. If you can be on screen, that's great, because it helps me know if this is making sense. And I also might ask you to pop a word or two in the chat here and there, again, because these conversations tend to be better if people are sharing a tiny bit. So do what you can to pitch in, and don't hesitate to ask a question as we go. I don't mind being interrupted. And we'll just see how this goes. Okay. All right. So how to stretch outside of your comfort zone and thrive. I am trained as a fearless living coach and trainer, which means I help people get more free, to live more from sort of their true self and go after things that they want. And we hear this a lot. Get out of your comfort zone, move beyond your comfort zone, take a risk. And what I want to do today is get more into the depth of that, what it actually means. We throw that phrase around a lot, but sometimes if we don't dig in and see what that really means to do, to step out of our comfort zone, we actually can just sabotage ourselves before we even start. So if you are up for it, give a word or throw something in the chat. What's the most challenging part of being a business owner? And if you're not a business owner, maybe think of going after a big goal or something like that. Just throw it in the chat. And I actually just realized, Elizabeth, I can't see the chat. So, and Jared and Deshawn. So if maybe somebody can read out.
We got it. Don't worry.
Yep. So the most challenging part of being a business owner, I can tell you mine is I freak out a lot and I run away from things. I try to avoid things if they're scary. I will put things off. I am a professional procrastinator. So yeah, for me, it's tackling the scary and not running away from it.
We already have one response, Kate, and this is from Courtney at Confluence Graphics. Nice to see you, Courtney. Having enough time and help to get everything done.
Okay,
I
great.
think we can all relate to that.
Yep. Having enough time and help to get things done. Thanks, Courtney.
Artania from Artie's Sweet Treats, all the responsibilities. Melissa Blue Mohammed from A La Mode Organization, also balance between working in the business and working on the business. We talk about that all the time in our accelerators. Lindsay, scaling while keeping the team energized and inspired. Maggie at The Real Good Life. I would add having brain space, totally. And Renee from the MLK bid says technology doesn't work, and ditto with overwhelm and getting we started. Doris, okay, juggling my job while building a business. Yeah, responsive group today. I'm loving this.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. Yeah, these are all fantastic. Having enough time, carrying all that responsibility, right? That's just kind of unspoken. It's not even the stuff you talk about every day. It's just on your shoulders. Getting organized enough, working in the business versus working on the business. I love that distinction. I've never heard of that. I need to start coming to these power hours. Scaling while keeping things going, overwhelm, juggling my job and everything else. So yeah, lots and lots and lots of challenges if we're going to own a business. Or run a business or go after something big. Now, I want you to take a look at these words on the screen: impatient, exhausted, self-righteous, misunderstood, paralyzed, paranoid, shame, defeated, out of control, confused, overwhelmed, or victimized. I want to know, as you hit these challenges, these scary parts of being a business owner, do you ever feel any of these things? So give a yes, or maybe put a word in there that you feel, maybe if it comes up. For me, my go-tos are I feel paralyzed, I feel overwhelmed, and I feel defeated. And then when I feel defeated, I feel ashamed. So those are my go-tos. I know my patterns really well. So they're the challenges I face, and then the feelings that come up when I face those challenges. Does anybody else recognize some of these feelings that come up when you face challenges? And I realize this is a little more vulnerable. So share as you're willing. Don't feel pressure.
The chat is blowing up, Kate, that yes, 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 overwhelmed. Courtney says the whole left column, paralyzed by overwhelm. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. So these are what we call symptoms of fear, right? Symptoms of fear. And these, I'm going to get into a lot of times we don't say we're afraid, but we're going to talk about fear a lot today because a lot of the things we go through are actually part of being afraid, but we don't associate them with fear. And that's one of the ways fear can be really sneaky with us and shut us down because it thinks it's helping us, because fear's main job and our brain's main job is to keep us alive. So these are symptoms of emotional fear. Emotional fear. We tend to think a lot about physical fears. Like if we have a fear of heights, if I have a fear of heights and someone wants me to walk up the Empire State Building, I'm going to get up 2 or 3 flights and then I'm going to start to have heart palpitations and I might start to sweat and I might just freak out and run back down the stairs. We know if we have physical fears, we're very, very aware of flight, fight, or freeze, right? Run away, fight back, or just completely get paralyzed. I tend to do flight or freeze more than anyone. I sort of grew up non-confrontational. But for other people, if you ever have somebody who's really irritable at work or combative, there could be fear under that. The trick is actually we have the same responses when we feel an emotional fear, but we tend not to connect this as well and or take care of it. If someone has a fear of heights and they're stuck up somewhere, we're going to have so much compassion for them, right? If someone has some of these emotional fears around going after challenges, and especially if it's ourselves, we tend to be pretty hard on ourselves with those. And that actually is the opposite of helpful when we think about it. So fear's whole job, our brain's whole job is to keep us alive, right? So if it thinks you can die from going up to a high place, it's going to shut you down physically, biochemically, and make you not go up there. There are also ways emotionally we feel like we can die. For some people, public speaking is their biggest fear. It's more scary than death to them. So if they are contemplating doing a public talk, fear is going to shut them down the same way it would shut somebody down who's trying to go up to a high height. So a few key things to know here. The brain doesn't know the difference between a real or imagined fear. So a tiger running at you could feel the same as giving a public talk if you are afraid of speaking in public. Which one of those actually more dangerous? The tiger, right? But the brain doesn't know that. The brain freaks you out regardless. So this is what I want you to do as we go through this talk and think about maybe taking this on in general. I want you to think of fear going forward as your personal Secret Service team. You have like 8 people. They surround you. They've got the little bits in their ears, right? And they're like, yep, she's looking at starting a business. Okay, let's look ahead. It looks ahead and sees all the threats. It looks behind you and sees all the threats. And the only thing fear communicates are the things that could go wrong. Its job is to go to worst case scenario every time to protect you just in case. You don't hire Secret Service to look for opportunities that could be fun. You don't see President Biden walking around going, hey, there's an amusement park over there. Do you want to go? Actually, he probably would. He'd probably go for ice cream. But in general, you don't see that happening. And so what does that look like with us if we're facing an emotional fear? The Secret Service is there and they're just pumping information at you, all the things that go wrong. Oh my gosh, what if I fail? What if you could look like a loser? Don't do this. What if people actually see you're totally incompetent? Or it looks back and it's like, you tried this before. It did not work. Don't do it. Don't run away, right? It's just going to pump these things at you. And we tend to just think we should be able to get over that. And that's the least helpful thing we can do. Fear has one job. with regards to emotions, to keep us from feeling like we're not enough. We all have our own versions of what that could feel like. For some of us, it's like feeling like we're a disappointment, feeling like we're a failure. For others of us, it's feeling insignificant or feeling inadequate. Each one of us has our own way where we have this, it's usually pretty unconscious, where we feel like we're not enough. And fear has one piece of advice for that. Keep things the same. It's the opposite of Nike. Every time you want to do something new, fear says, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Right? It's total opposite. It's a one-hit wonder. It's all it can say. So what does this look like when we try to take a step towards something we're excited about? And probably most of us running a business, there's excitement and fear, or excitement and scary on two sides of the same thing. Fear is sneaky. It doesn't go, oh my gosh, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. It pipes up on the mic and goes, you suck. You can't do this. Don't do it. What are you thinking? It won't work out. And then it floods you with its favorite, whatever works best for you in these fear symptoms. It's going to flood you with this to keep you from doing something different or new that's scary, that could result in all the things. And remember, the brain doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. You trying to start your own business or you taking a new risk could be the equivalent of you facing a tiger, right? Or I can't only think of a tiger today for some reason. I'm arachnophobic. So for me, it would be a tarantula. I can't even talk about that. But anyway, yeah. So fear's sneaky. It doesn't say I'm afraid, because if it did, then you'd probably start to feel like, oh, maybe I need to deal with these symptoms of fear. What it does is throw these emotions at us. And just quick show of hands, and or maybe throw it in the chat. Give a thumbs up if you love these feelings, a thumbs down if these are not your favorite feelings. Which one? Are these your favorite feelings? Oh my God, I love feeling exhausted and impatient and ashamed. Or really not your favorite feelings? Anybody? These are their favorite feelings? Around. Thumbs down all around. Not my favorite feeling either. Not my favorite feeling either. And one thing I want to point out here, because it's really important to know the difference between shame and guilt. Shame is a sneaky little bugger. And guilt means, oh, I've done something wrong, I feel bad. Shame means there's something wrong with me and I feel bad. Fear is going to push on that a lot. So just to show you the opposite, the emotional symptoms of freedom. Oops, where did they go? They ran away. Hold on a second. Okay, I must have taken them out. I'm sorry. I will go back to those. So emotional fears, emotional symptoms of freedom: being present, acceptance, feeling centered, feeling empowered, feeling energized, feeling like there's just an abundance of resources, feeling there's a synchronicity, everything just comes together and goes. And if you're anything like me as a business owner, that seems to be this process. I go up into freedom feelings, and then I go down into fear freedom, and then I go up into freedom, and then I go down into fear. It's a super, super, super roller coaster. So how do we work with this when the first thing when we want to do something scary or big or new or different is we get flooded with these feelings that make us feel like something's really wrong, right? And our brain is telling us don't do it. So I want to share a model today. It's called Stretch, Risk, Die. It's not as ominous as it sounds. This was conceived by Rhonda Britton. She's the woman I learned to coach with. She conceived of Fearless Living, and there are books out there if you want to read them. They're really, really good. She has a bunch of different books. Her foundational one is Fearless Living. And today we want to demystify and destigmatize fear. So why demystify? One, mainly because it's sneaky, right? It's going to sneak up on us. Fear is as smart as we are. It has all the memories, all the experience, all the responses that we do. And every time it's trying to try to come up with something new to stop us. If we can figure out how that process works, we can change it. Awareness is huge, as most of us know, right? From any time we try to change something, awareness is big. We also want to destigmatize it, because all of these feelings usually come with some self-recrimination, some judgment, right? We usually think, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Oh, I should just be able to get over this. What's my problem? Why can't I just stop procrastinating? Why can't I just do the thing? What the hell? Why can't I just, oh, sorry, I just said hell. What the hell? Can I do the thing? So, right. So we want to destigmatize it. We want to take that judgment out of it. Judgment is the least helpful thing in this moment, right? When we do that, we get empowered to take steps forward. So Stretch, Risk, Die. And I am going to be sending a little handout after the talk today. So you'll get a write-up of this, but take notes if you want that feel like, oh yeah, that says something to me. So it looks like a target, right? In the middle is your comfort zone. Comfort is familiar. It's not necessarily always comfortable. It's fear's happy place because everything here is the same. There's no reason to be afraid. There's no reason to get triggered. There's nothing. Everything's okay here. You take one step out of that into your stretch zone and notice you cross a line there. So when you cross a line, fear comes up and it's its job to come up. You don't hire security to not tell you if there's a threat. So this process is not about never feeling afraid or the symptoms of fear. It's about learning to spot them for what they are and ride that wave very differently. So stretch zone are things we know we can do. We just tend not to do them. I'm trying to get in better shape right now. I know I can go to the gym more. I don't always do it, right? That's an example. I have been meaning to sign up for a new bank account for like 3 months. I haven't been doing it. Right? So for my business. So I know I can do it. I just don't do it. So these are low-level risks, low-level steps outside of our comfort zone. The trick is here. Don't minimize this zone. Don't be like, oh, it's just a stretch. I should be able to do it. Because this is also the zone where we beat ourselves up the most. And beating ourselves up is a tactic that fear uses to send us back to our comfort zone, right? What's going to help me not take action, feeling bad about that, losing my energy and crawling back onto the couch to watch more Ted Lasso, right? Or whatever you watch. So stretch zone, things we know we can do, we just tend not to do them. And people are like, oh, it's not a stretch. I know I can do it. Here's a way to tell if something's in your stretch zone. Are you doing it or not doing it? If you're not doing it, it's in your stretch zone, right? So then risk zone. Risk means this is something we want to try, but we genuinely risk failure or rejection. This is scarier. There's a thicker barrier to that, meaning more fear is going to pop up. It's going to go to like DEFCON 3 and like say harder things to you or shut you down harder. And then the last zone is die. And die is, we're talking emotional here. We're not talking bungee jumping, which is a physical fear of mine, but emotional fear here, heck no, that would kill me. Like I cannot possibly, right? So for some people who public speaking is their worst fear, they feel like they're going to die. Literally, they feel like they're going to die if they do public speaking. For me, public speaking is in my stretch and risk zone, depending on the crowd and what I'm doing and if it's new or not. If I was to ask to be on a reality TV show, that would be my die zone. That would be I'd be, hell no, that would kill me, right? So do not want to do it. So a few things here. There are different zones when we step out of our comfort zone. There are different things we ask ourselves to do, right? And each zone has harder obstacles to get over the farther you get from your comfort zone. And fear is always going to come up. It's never not going to come up. So instead of seeing that and all the symptoms we associate with it, all those fear, all those impatient, exhausted, shamed, defeated, overwhelmed, we're going to flip the script on those and we're going to see them as helpful signs. I want you to see when you feel those, not as a failure, as like a personal flaw, but as a sign, oh, I'm actually must be growing because fear is coming up and trying to tell me I suck or I can't do this or it'll fail, right? So one, we want to flip how those show up in our associations with those. And two, one of the things this helps me see is that I need compassion, not judgment. I need empathy. It doesn't matter where anything falls on this target. For me, don't judge it, right? I was once watching Rhonda give a workshop and she was talking about people getting in better shape. And a woman said, oh, I want to go to ballroom dancing. I know I can do ballroom dancing. I just have to try. I just have to get organized. I love ballroom dancing. It's in my stretch zone. And a man yelled from the back of the room, that's in my die zone, right? What is ever in each of our zones is our stuff. And it doesn't matter. I'm going to share an example with you. Social media has been in my risk zone. And for most of the people I've met, social media is like, stretch, comfort, no big deal. For me, risk. And I'm going to share how I use this tool to face that fear a couple of months ago and where I am now. But don't judge it. The best gift you can give yourself is to not judge whatever shows up where on this diagram for you. Give yourself compassion and empathy. Judgment tires us. It shuts us down. Empathy energizes us. Okay. So let's a tactical tool. How else can we use this? So there's a couple of ways this can be really, really helpful. One One is when we want to do things, we tend to make a list of to do and just feel like we should be able to do it. Anybody ever done that? Hand raise in the chat. How many times have you ever just been like, oh yeah, I should get this done. I should write my articles of organization tomorrow and get them done. No problem. And then you don't do it. And then you feel bad. And then it gets worse, right? We feel some of these symptoms. So one thing is we're not aware of what we're actually asking ourselves to do. And what would be different in your daily life, in the challenges that you face and the opportunities that you have, is instead of just making the assumption, I should be able to do this, if you laid it out and realized, okay, I want to do this, and this is in this zone. So I need to be aware that fear is going to come up big time for me, and I'm going to be strategic about it. I'm going to, cut it off at the pass. So one, you can be much more aware of what you're actually asking yourself to do. And again, without judgment, with empathy. You have a much better success if you know that. Also, rather than driving through, I don't know about you, but my process before I learned this was sort of adrenaline and fight my way through it. Just do it. Sometimes if I was doing something, I'd be up, like I was a teacher for 15 years before I became a coach. I would stay up all night grading papers or creating this new unit, and I just do it, power my way through it, close my eyes, and hope to God I'd get there the next day and hope I never had to do it again, because that was not fun, right? The challenge with that is, yes, we get something done, but do we grow from it? Do we grow from it? And part of what we want to do as business owners is genuinely grow in an inside way, in an aligned way, a way that gives us confidence. So often we want to have the confidence before we take the risk. But most of us know from our experience, you get the confidence after you take the step. You don't get it before, it comes after, right? And so one of the ways you can use this is to consciously engage in challenges as a way to build genuine internal confidence and experience in a sustainable way, not in a way that exhausts you and, wrecks your adrenal glands and has you, on this, 25 cups of coffee a day and no sleep. So, and then lastly, we can be kinder to ourselves when we're aware. I sort of already said that, but again, the kinder we are, people think, oh, I can't be easy on myself. I have to be hard on myself to get stuff done. And obviously discipline is one thing, but there's a difference between sort of, a discipline that is empowering and energizing and a discipline that is shaming and judging, right? Anything that judges or shames is going to shut you down. One of my favorite quotes is, there's nothing so strong as gentleness and nothing so gentle as real strength. There's nothing so strong as gentleness and nothing so gentle as real strength. I really believe when we are kind to ourselves, we can do more and do better and actually enjoy the process. So there are my emotional, I put my things in the wrong place. Okay. So questions on this. I am going to stop sharing for a second. Time are we at? 26. Good. Questions on this model. You can put them in the chat or pipe up. Don't be shy. I love questions. Does this seem useful? You're like, this is silly. How could I use this? Does it seem, oh no, wait, maybe this has got something for me. Do you understand how it works? What do you got?
We're getting a lot of yeses in the chat that this was helpful.
Great. We're going to go to use it. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Kate, we do have a question. Assuming this works with others too, how we treat those who report to us or those who we work with, i.e. customers. So I think Renee is asking, how do we help others live more fearlessly? I always have to make sure I say more fearlessly than less fearlessly. Renee, did I ask that question?
Yeah.
Renee, did I ask that question appropriately? How do we help others live less fearlessly, more fearlessly? You know what I mean.
I got it. So we start with ourselves. We really don't get control over what other people do. If you're a boss, you can train your people in this, right? You can train your employees in this. I do work with organizations, so do lots of other fearless coaches. So, you can have everybody learn this. And then actually, here's the thing, complaining comes from fear, right? What would it be like to be in a workplace where people didn't complain and actually just vented, but then took responsibility and got things done? So that's one way you can use it, is to teach others. But really, it starts with ourselves. If we are not triggered by fear, if we are coming from a place of freedom, it unconsciously encourages others to do the same. It's like in sports, when you play with somebody who's better than you, they raise your game, right? The same thing happens. If you have less if you're coming from less fear, if you're more centered and present and in a place of freedom, it automatically calls it out in another person. But the place to start with is ourselves. Unless you're a boss and you want to bring, some coaching or training or anything into your business.
We do have another question. This is from Artania Westfall. How do you handle stressful situations?
Okay, we're going to go through that. I'm going to apply this to a situation, and I'm going to ask you guys to do it along with me. Insights are great. Actions, what's changed us, right? So this model is lovely. If we don't use it, it doesn't do us any good. So we're going to, in a second, and if I don't answer your question as we go through the workshop, Artania, I want you to bring up and be like, that didn't answer my question. How does this work? Okay. So we're going to walk through this and apply it. Okay. So let's go to that model. If you have a piece of paper or pen, or you want to type right on your computer, you can tell I'm old school. I go right to the paper and pen. I'm going to walk you through this with an example of me, how I used this model a few months ago and where I am now, to show you how it can change things. And then, thanks, Lindsay. And then we'll walk through, and then you might even have more questions because you're going to bring up things from your own life and apply it and see, oh, wait, what's this? How does this work? Okay. So I'll go back to screen sharing. That's another old school thing. Talk out as you do it. Okay. So one way to use this right away. So step one, I want you to write, don't worry about the stuff on the right. That's my process. I want you to list just a quick list. It doesn't have to be everything. Challenges, goals, opportunities you have for this week, or it could be the next week too, whatever, because we're on a Wednesday. So list anything, challenges, goals, or opportunities you have coming up in the very near future. Do something that's live for you. And I'll share you mine. This was from mine from beginning of February. I wanted to hire a social media company because I'm building a business and I need to be on social media. And that is my least favorite thing in the world. I want to reach out to new clients, and I want to follow up on a possibility of speaking in October.